I can't tell you how close I came to using deadly force. Now I'm going to tell you this story, and at the end, I want to hear your opinion. Do you think I could have used deadly force? In other words, the ultimate force you can use against another human being? Listen to the story, make your own evaluation. Story from the roads when we come back. Welcome back to Outside with Sarge. I am indeed outside. I find myself today just outside Glacier National Park. It is beautiful. It's a crisp morning, and I can't wait to get this day started. But I want to make this video first. So I guess in the interest of full disclosure, I'm going to provide as many details as I can, the ones I've obviously committed to memory, so that you can make an informed decision. And the decision or question is this: could I have used deadly force in this following story? Yes, it's about me. Obviously, yes, it really occurred. And I'll tell you what, I thank God that I made the decision I did, and that I'm here to be with you today to make this video. Here's how this story starts. As many stories start, it was just a regular day on duty. Now, I was actually working a night shift, and then I was told by the sergeant that I have to come back in the morning to assist with coverage. So, went home, got some sleep, came back to work, and I was working at a time where I normally didn't work, early in the morning. And I was cruising around, and at some point in the morning, I thought, you know, the guy I arrested last night, I need to get some information from him and about him. So I'll drive down to the jail and take advantage of me being awake during business hours. And so I made my way downtown. And in this particular city, yes, the jail was downtown, and as many downtowns are, there are one-way streets and there's some interesting traffic structures. So I was traveling down a road that had 2 lanes, and up ahead it converged into 1 lane. And just before that happened, I checked my rear view mirror so that I could make a safe merge. Now remember, I was in uniform, I was driving a patrol vehicle, I was on duty. And I merge, and I see a white car behind me, and I knew I had plenty of room so that I wasn't cutting this person off. Well, I travel about 100 feet or so, and to my surprise, I start hearing a bunch of honking. And I look into my rearview mirror, and I see a guy, the guy in the white car, behind me. He's making hand gestures at me. And his face is all contorted and angry looking. And I see him, apparently maybe he noticed that I was looking in the rearview mirror, because he throws his hands up in the air like, you know, what's up, man? Again, I was in a patrol vehicle, so he knew exactly who he was making those hand gestures toward, and I kept driving. He again starts honking, and I thought, well, maybe he looks very mad, but maybe he needs help. Maybe that's his way of trying to flag me over. And so I just keep monitoring him for another half a block or so, and he just is unrelenting. He's pounding on that horn, he's lifting up his hands, and I thought, okay, well, he looks mad, but I better just check to see if he needs help. So I pull over into like a parking stall, and he passes, and as he passes, he makes a really mean face at me. And I think, okay, well, he's obviously not flagging me down then. He must legitimately be upset with me. Now, in law enforcement, people becoming upset with you, is that an abnormal thing? Sometimes not really, if we're being honest. It could just be part of the day. Part of the things you have to slough off and maybe mentally explain away as they're just having a bad day, but you're not going to let it affect your day. So I pull in behind him. I start driving now behind him, and he's still throwing his hands up in the air. I could see into, you know, the inside of his car now. And I thought, okay, well, I'm gonna pull him over and try to figure out what's going on, because this is not stopping. It's not getting better. So I pull him over and I walk up to his passenger side. And he pulls up next to a sidewalk. So I'm kind of looking down into the car. And I asked him if everything was all right. And then he yells at me and he says, "You cut me off back there." And as soon as he said that, mentally I can recall obviously not cutting this guy off. Maybe, I don't know what he was thinking, honestly. But he wouldn't let go of this fact that he thought I'd cut him off. So much so that he became very belligerent and cursing at me. And I thought, well, maybe he's under the influence. Maybe there's something else going on here, because I know I didn't cut this guy off. It was in the morning, I was wide awake. I wasn't in a hurry. I was just trying to get back down to the jail to get some information. And so I told him, well, you can't be just honking like that. Number one, it's illegal and it's also distracting to the other drivers. And he just would not have it. So I said, well, let me see your license. And I thought, okay, well, at the very least, I'm going to run him and see if he has warrants or if there's something else going on, because his demeanor wasn't sitting right with me, especially given, even if I had cut him off, let's just entertain that. Even if I had cut this guy off, he was still, I think, in my opinion, overreacting. Okay. So I go back to my car. Oh, let me back up. I forgot this part. So I said, well, where's your I need your license, registration, your proof of insurance. And he gives me his license. He's still angry. And then he says, well, very gruffly, he said, I don't know where my insurance is and I don't have registration. And I said, well, how about this? Just look for it. And if you happen to find it, let me know. And so I go back to my car and I can still hear him from his car making comments about me, I'm guessing. So I get on the radio and I do a check on the guy using his license. Well, then I see his driver door open and he gets out and I walk towards him. Now remember, I'm on a sidewalk. He's down on the street. Now, that's just how this downtown area was situated. And he gets out and I said, what's going on? And he says, well, I think my documents are in the trunk. And so I said, okay, well, if you want to look for them, that's fine. I was just trying to de-escalate the whole thing with my demeanor, with my tone, and the words that I was choosing to say to him, because I just wanted to get to the jail and do my job. If I'm being honest, I didn't want this side quest with this honking guy. I just wanted to get out of there. Okay, so he opens up his trunk and I'm standing over him kind of on the sidewalk, and I look into his trunk and it's like boxes of papers. He looked like maybe he's in the corporate world or something like that. He was dressed very normally, just some casual business attire, like he had a polo shirt, kind of a normal looking guy. And so once I knew the trunk, there was nothing in the trunk, I stand a little bit past the trunk, but still, like at the very end of his car, so that I could see into his trunk. I don't know what's in there exactly, but I know I didn't see anything initially. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll just write this guy a ticket and then send him on his way. And so he's looking through papers and I can see him. In my hand, I'm just holding my ticket book. And I remember I wrote the date and the time on the ticket book. And every other second or so, I'm just glancing down at him to see what he's doing in his trunk. And after, I don't know, maybe 5 seconds of him digging into his trunk, ostensibly looking for his paperwork, with his right hand, I see him pull out a gun, a Glock. I could clearly see that it was a Glock. And he pulls it out, but he's not doing anything with it. He just pulls it straight out. Now, let me back up again. At this time during my career, I was actively training for a triathlon. And so in my summation, man, I was in peak form. I was in great shape. I was fast. I was young, much younger than I am now. And I felt good. I was wide awake. I'd had my coffee already. Mentally and physically, I guess you could say, I was in a great place. And so when he pulled out the Glock with his right hand, so remember, I'm essentially perpendicular to him. I'm looking down at him. I'm on the sidewalk. He's down on the street. And because the way his trunk was situated, he couldn't just pull out the gun and then just point it at me immediately. So as he's lifting it up, he starts turning towards me. And in my mind, I remember thinking, I have time to grab that gun. Now, fear, intent, and ability. Let's talk about that very quickly. Was I in fear? Yes, I was. Now, fear is kind of a personal thing. People experience fear at different levels and at different times of a situation, or with different information inputs. In other words, if you don't have a lot of information from which to develop fear, you may not be fearful. I definitely had fear. Intent. What did I know about this guy historically? He was honking at a uniformed officer. He felt I had cut him off. He was very angry, and I thought, and still do think, that he was overreacting. Even if that was true, even if I had cut him off, I would still say, yeah, he was overreacting. And so I knew I was dealing with somebody that was overreacting, cussing, very angry, making a scene in public. And so it was easier for me to travel down the intention roadway. In other words, could I formulate the opinion that his intentions were gruesomely bad for me, given now that a Glock had entered the situation? And then ability. Obviously, the ability box is easy to check. A Glock, as you well know, can easily destroy a human being. 3 boxes: fear, intent, and ability. Were they all checked? I'm leaving that to you, because I honestly want to know what you think about this situation. So, back to the story. I jump into action. I drop my ticket book, and my right hand immediately reaches for, now remember people, I'm left-handed. So in those situations, yeah, I'm willing to give up my weak hand so that my dominant hand can be available for other horrible things. I reach, I grab his hand and the gun, and then my left hand, with all my physical force, wrenches him over onto the sidewalk with me, and I slam him as hard as I could onto the concrete sidewalk. And in doing so, his Ray-Ban glasses, I knew that afterwards, his nice, expensive Ray-Ban glasses shatter. He lets out this loud groan. The Glock is still in his hand. I reach up, still with his hand and Glock in my hand, and smack that thing as hard as I could on the sidewalk. He lets go and I push it away. And I think maybe around this time I start yelling at him. Now imagine this. You are in an equation or situation where the other person has a Glock in their hand, and now you're in a position where they don't have the Glock. So maybe you can't check that abilities box, unless he's going to physically overpower me and all these things. So I wrench his arms behind him, and I get him into handcuffs. And at this point, this is when Bad Sarge, the person you know as Sarge, appears on scene, and I start yelling at him. I start berating him. I start cursing at him, because the adrenaline, the excitement, the combination of relief, everything starts flooding my mind. He starts saying, "I'm sorry." He's yelling, "I'm sorry." And in my mind, I remember thinking, well, yeah, I'd be sorry too, you idiot. And other choice words I had for him. So I stand up and I realize, wow, this guy's gun is busted up. I go for the gun. I notice it's scratched up, and I secure that thing, and I start yelling at him again, and I realize slowly that my radio is going off. Dispatch apparently has been trying to contact me, letting me know that ultimately, this guy doesn't have any warrants. He's not wanted. He's not any person of interest or whatever. But I didn't hear that. And slowly I'm beginning to hear that. Slowly my vision is returning. But what also is increasing is my anger at this guy. And so he starts yelling other things I don't remember, but it wasn't "I'm sorry." It was other like excuse type language. And I remember saying to him, "How dare you pull that Glock on me? What did you think was going to happen?" And then I'm kind of looking at myself to make sure I'm okay. And then he says, "I'm sorry, I'm off duty." And when he says, "I'm off duty," something clicks in my mind, because when someone says "I'm off duty," those are words I've said before. Those are words that my peers have said. Those are words that people who are in law enforcement say when they're not on duty. Typically, we don't say, "I'm not at work" or whatever. That term "I'm off duty" is well within our language wheelhouse for us. And so when he says it, something clicks in my mind, and I ask him, "What?" And he's yelling, "I'm off duty." Like excited, not angry, but just excited. Like he just wants to get that information out there as quickly as he can. "I'm off duty, I'm off duty." So I said, "What do you mean?" And he says, "My ID is in my back pocket." So I stand him up, and I'm still asking him, "What do you mean you're off duty?" But he won't say what that means to him. All he keeps saying is, "My ID is in my back pocket." So I said, "I'm going to grab your ID." I pull out his wallet, and I said, "This?" And it's just a wallet. He says, "Yes, my ID is inside." And I open it up, and I see his badge and his credentials, his ID. I won't tell you what department he works for or worked for at the time. I don't know if he's still there. Hopefully he's not. But as clear as day, I saw the documents. And when I saw those things, and they were obvious, they were legit, for a moment I calmed down a little bit, but then within a few seconds I went skyrocket high angry again, because in my mind I thought, this makes it worse. You're not just some angry person that thinks I cut him off. You are a law enforcement agent who essentially picked a fight with me over thinking you were cut off, and never de-escalated, never tried to open any door that would make this situation better, but rather compounded the situation to a potentially deadly degree by introducing, without explanation or clearance or anything, a Glock into the situation. And so while I'm yelling at him, cursing at him again, if I'm being honest, that's what I was doing, I started also saying, "How stupid can you be?" Yelling at him. And then I asked him, "Why did you pull that Glock out?" And as if this situation wasn't stupid enough, stand by, it's about to get more stupid or stupider. He tells me the reason he pulled the Glock out was so that he would know, or that I would know, that he was a law enforcement agent. And when he gave me that excuse, all it did was made me more angry, because I thought, this guy's thought process, there's some horrible speed bumps going on there that are constantly putting him off track. And so I laid into him again. I yelled at him, Man, as I'm telling this story, I realized just how much I yelled at this guy on the sidewalk there in downtown. blocks away from the jail. But anyway, when I get done yelling at him and berating him and just trying to get a useful answer out of him, I come to the conclusion this guy's just dumb. I'm sorry, folks. He was dumb. I encountered a dummy that day. And so I told him, I'm not paying for your Ray-Bans, and if you get in trouble because your duty weapon is all scratched up, that's on you. And he said, I'm so sorry. This is my first law enforcement job. Now, he looked like he was well into his 30s. So, it wasn't some, a youngster, 20 years old, 21 years old, or whatever. No. So I felt, well, you can't use that excuse. Okay. You should have been trained. They should have told you, don't do anything stupid while you're on or off duty, for that matter. So, I tell him, here's my information. If you're going to file a complaint or whatever, this is who I am, at your service. And I'm not paying for your stuff, and I'm not taking credit for anything bad that happened here. That's on you. And I told him, I'm going to feed this information up my chain of command, and whatever happens, happens. But in the interest of full disclosure, I'm feeding this information up. I'm getting this monkey off of my back, and I'm throwing it on the chain of command, which, by the way, is a very good practice for you guys out there to heed. And so he drives away. I immediately get on my phone and call the sergeant's office. There were multiple sergeants on duty. And when I heard the voice of the sergeant who answered the phone, that was probably in the last, probably all morning, that was the best bit of news I could hear, because the sergeant who answered the phone, she was awesome. She was fair. She had great experience. She had a trackable history of good judgment, on and on and on. And so when I heard her voice answer, I thought, praise Jesus. Finally, I get something going in my favor. And I told her name was Michelle. I told her, Michelle, I've got a tale for you, and you may be hearing about this. So here's what happened. And the story I just told you, kind people, was the exact same story I told her. And I was a bit nervous, if I'm being honest, telling her the story, because I thought there's probably something I did wrong, right? It can't all be this dummy's fault. So when I was done telling her the tale, I stopped talking, obviously, and I was just listening for her response. And there was no response from the sergeant, which made me nervous, because I really respected her, still do to this day. And after several seconds of silence, she finally said, kind of in a slow, drawn out tone and delivery, "What an idiot." And that's all she said. And then I remember saying, "Are you talking about me or that other guy?" And she said, "No, the other guy." She says, "Something needs to be done about this." And anyway, I won't bore you with the details from that point on, but the purpose of me telling you this story was to get your input. Do you think ultimately, as I tell you the details of this tale, that I could have on that day used deadly force? Could I have taken this guy's life? And would I have been justified in doing so? Let me know in the comment section what you think. Alrighty. If you made it to this point, I want to thank you for joining me. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for commenting. Apparently YouTube likes it when the watchers comment. And so because YouTube likes it, I like it. Let me hear your thoughts. Keep tuning in. Again, this story is crazy, but ultimately there are lessons to be learned from both sides, from my perspective and also from the other guy's perspective. What would you do if you got pulled over? What would you do if your emotions overtook you and you were off duty? Would you try to de-escalate the situation? Or would you just keep throwing it up into the ether just to see how bad you could get it. I don't know. All right. Remember, this channel is focused on dealing with the rewards, the challenges, and the longevity of serving others. I appreciate you. Be safe out there. Get outside. Get to Glacier National Park if you can. Take a hike. Get outside your mind about maybe the way policing was done back in the old days. Let's get outside and let's get that work done.